Hello, everybody on the interwebs. We are about to get started. So, if you can place your name and where you're viewing from in the comments, that would be an amazing thing. So, please do that, and you will see our beautiful faces in just a second. We are going live. Hello, hello. In five, four, three, two, one. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Melissa. How are you
Hey,
doing?
Carrie. I'm
Yes.
good.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining me. We are broadcasting live on social media, and today we are going to be talking about the power of doodling. And before we just start talking, I would love to introduce you, Melissa, to the interwebs. So Melissa's a friend of mine. We've known each other for a few years. She has a lot of superpowers. Um, and I just stole this from her website. She's an innovation strategist, facilitator, dot connector, creativity instigator. I love that. Creativity enabler. One of her superpowers is catalyzing creativity, whether you believe you're creative or not. So this is for you, for the people who don't think that you're creative or don't think you can draw. And what else? Tell us a little bit more about you, Melissa.
Oh my gosh, what do you want to know?
What do you like to do for fun?
um, right now I like reading and I like going on walks and kind of pretending that I'm Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man.
Oh, I love that.
Waka waka waka
Walk,
waka
walk, walk,
waka.
walk, walk. Yes, 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 yes. And so, my next question for you, before we just start talking about the other stuff about doodling, what once this quarantine, stay at home order is lifted,
Mm.
what is one thing that you're looking forward to doing?
Oh gosh. I'm looking forward to hugging as many people as possible.
Right?
Ugh, yeah, totally. Going to the beach. Um, yeah, getting out and being in real rooms with people in three dimensions.
Oh my gosh, yes, that would be freaking amazing.
I know.
That is one of the things I'm looking forward to as well. And I know it's going to be a challenge of like, we got to ease into it, and people are going to be a little bit scared of giving high fives and hugs. But
Seriously.
I am looking forward to it. So let's move on to why we are here. And forgive me for everyone's on the internet, so my video is a little bit shaky. So forgive me for that. But you can still hear me, and I can still hear you. So doodling. Um, why doodling?
Doodling. Here's the interesting thing, Gary. I used to make my living as an artist, and before that, I spent many years, like my entire teenage years and young adulthood, believing that I was not just a non artist, but a non creative person. Totally non creative. I really believed that I was a non creative person. I was an academic and I lived my life kind of in black and white. And I was like, if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz, and there's this whole black and white section of The Wizard of Oz, and then Dorothy goes through this tornado, and the tornado, she finds a house, and she's in the house, and the tornado lifts the house up, and then sets the house down, and it's calm again, and she opens the door to the house, and it's all Technicolor because she's landed in Oz. And when I rediscovered art and creativity, it was like opening the door to Oz. It was like suddenly there was full, vibrant color in my life again. And I was 28. Yeah, 20, 27, 28. And I started taking all kinds of art classes and being a beginner and doing all kinds of arty things again and feeling really lame at all of them, but falling in love with doing things with my hands. That was in my late 20s. And I kind of stumbled into calligraphy and fell in love with it and ended up becoming a professional calligrapher and artist. and I loved it, but because and then I had just gotten married at that time, and then I ended up getting divorced, and suddenly I had to turn this little hobby business that I had developed into a way to make my real living, and that really killed all the joy in what I was doing. And I spent about 10 years as a professional artist, which is, many artists' dream is to be a professional artist, right? I spent about 10 years as a professional artist, feeling like the most uncreative person on the planet, scratching out my living as an artist and really hating it because I wasn't making any art for joy. And when I finally got back to making art for joy, what happened was I realized that I needed to learn how to play again. And I had lost all the play as I was making my living from my art, making art for clients on commission. And now it's more than a few years ago now, the way that I came back to playing again is I had gotten back to making a few pieces of art. I was making these I started making some pieces, and then I started realizing that I had been avoiding my drafting table for a number of weeks, and I couldn't figure out why. And then one day I looked at the pieces that I'd been making, and I suddenly realized, oh my God, the work that I'd been making was just like the work that I was making for clients. It was very designy. It was very meticulous. It wasn't playful at all. It was, like I said, it was just like the kind of work that I was making for clients. And what my creative spirit needed was to let loose and make messes and play. But I'd forgotten how to play because I'd spent all these years making art for clients. So how do I get back to that play? How do I get back to that letting loose and making messes? And I realized that what I needed to do was to be like a little kid playing in a sandbox. And it was like this light bulb went off over my head, like bing. I needed to be playing in a creative sandbox. And so I needed to create some rules for myself. And so I established a little handful of rules, quote unquote. The first one was, there is no wrong. One of them was, when you get to the place where you know that the piece isn't done, it needs something, but you're afraid you're going to ruin it. So you're afraid to do something because you're afraid that whatever you do might ruin the piece. Go ahead and ruin it, baby. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You'll learn something, right? So a handful of little rules like that. And over the next few years, the little handful of rules evolved into 10. And a few years after that, well, first I took that handful of rules and it really worked. It helped me to make more art in 1 year than I had made in the previous 10 years. And it totally changed my life. And I started sharing what I was doing, and it helped other people. Turn those little 10 little rules into a little e-course, which helped hundreds of people and changed their lives. And then a few years after that, I took those 10 rules and I changed the name into Guideposts, and I turned that into my book, The Creative Sandbox Way, which changed more people's lives. Well, before I wrote the book, I realized that I was having a hard time getting to my drafting table to make art. And I knew from experience that the thing I do first is the thing that gets done. So I thought to myself, what can I do without even getting out of bed? I
Love it.
can't really splash paint around. That's not going to work so well. But I can take one of these Pigma Micron pens and a sketchbook, and I can try doodling first thing. I can write in my journal and then doodle. Why don't I give that a try? So I started doing that. I guess that was like 2015, 2016. So when I got around to writing my book in about August of 2016, I had basically a year's worth of doodles from doodling every day, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day. And all of those doodles ended up being the illustrations of my book, The Creative Sandbox Way. And that experience of doodling every single day with no expectation that the doodle was going to be something amazing or great or, a finished piece in any way. It was just put some time into playing in what I call the creative sandbox. It's that mind space of being a 4-year-old, basically.
Yes.
That experience was so profound. It was like a meditation. It was like if you've ever done yoga, and yoga teachers will often talk about every time you step on the yoga mat, you bring a new self to the mat. You notice like your breathing might be slightly different. Where you are, who you are is different every time you step on the yoga mat. And I had the same experience. Like every time I held the pen and brought the pen to the paper, like every time it was a little bit different. I was doing essentially the same thing. I was making marks on paper, but what was happening inside my head, like it was the same and it was different every day. And whatever I made was, in some ways, it was insignificant. It was just, it was just a doodle. But over time, like I was creating a body of work and I was shifting who I was through that experience of doodling. And as an improviser, I've been improvising for a number of years now, I noticed so many parallels to what I was doing with the pen on paper and to what I do as an improviser, you know, interacting with other people, creating scenes out of nothing. So anyway, that was my
Yeah.
experience.
Cool. Thank you so much for sharing that and hanging on while I restart my computer. So that is that is called improvising in real life. So I think let's start by first. I would love to see you take us through one of your doodles and what you do. We have the handy dandy doodle cam so that we can see what you're doing in real time, which is pretty awesome. And then after that, maybe we do an activity about doodling. And I have my pen ready. I have some paper, so I'm excited to do it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, so all of this is an improvisation. You can see on my regular webcam that I have my iPad set up in this janky stand so that I'm filming over my hand. My regular, the height between the iPad and my drafting table was too high for you to be able to see anything. So I have a cardboard box set up here to bring my paper closer to the iPad so you could see it better. So this is how we roll here. It's all
Yep.
improv.
Right.
All right, so I have just a plain old 3x5 card, and I'm using a Pigma Micron '05. Um, that's just what I happen to have. I like Pigma Microns a lot. So with this 3x5 card, this is plain blank white paper. Now, everybody deals with fear of the blank page, whether you're drawing or writing. We all suffer from fear of the blank page. So what I like to say is, how do we deal with fear of the blank page? It's simple. We make it unblank. How do we make it unblank? Easy. You just make a mark. It doesn't matter what you do. Just make a mark. It can be a dot. It can be a line. It doesn't matter what you do. Just make a mark. Ta-da! You cannot have fear of the blank page anymore because it's not a blank page anymore. Now it's not blank. We just made it unblank. So now we've made it unblank. So now what do? It doesn't matter. Now your job is to let your inner 4-year-old inhabit the tip of your pen and give your inner 4-year-old free rein to respond to whatever is there. So whatever's happening here, that's the reality. That's the world that exists. And your inner 4-year-old's job is simply to respond to that. Whatever your inner 4-year-old wants to do, there is no wrong. That's Creative Sandbox Way guidepost number 1. And your job is to just let your inner 4-year-old have free rein. Now, your inner critics, your gremlins in your head are going to pop up at this point and say, oh my God, that sucks. That is so awful. Who do you think you are? You're not an artist. This is terrible. You should stop right now. Whatever, all kinds of terrible things. Your gremlins are going to go nuts. And your job is to send them away. That's guidepost number 8, dismiss all gremlins. Your job is to keep sending them away whenever they appear, and just keep letting your inner 4-year-old have free rein to do whatever she or he wants to do, and just keep going. And whatever you do, that is now the reality of the world that you're creating. And your job is to simply respond to that world, or in improv terms, this is the offer. And your job is now to say yes and yes, that's the new offer. I am now going to respond to that offer and say yes and to that. Yes, and I'm now going to add this. My inner 4-year-old has free rein to do whatever she wants. It doesn't matter. I can do anything. I can do anything because I'm 4. And it's not about impressing somebody. It's not about making something great. It's not about making money from it. It's a 3x5 card. Who cares? You're just going to recycle it or, tear it into pieces. It doesn't matter. It's a 3x5 card. You're going to make more things. It's just a piece of paper. Who cares? When you were 4 years old, I guarantee that you used to scribble all kinds of stuff and you did not have any angst about it. If you had angst at 4, go back to 3. If you had angst at 3, go back to 2. When you were a little kid, you had no angst about what you made with a marker and a piece of paper. It didn't matter. You did not care. Literally think about putting your inner little tiny child into the tip of that pen and give them free rein to do whatever they want. They're exploring, they're experimenting. They're asking themselves, what would happen if I added a line here? What would happen if I did this? What would happen if I did that? That is absolutely all that is going on right at this minute. You're letting your curiosity take charge. Your curious little tiny child is inhabiting the tip of that pen, and you are letting them have free rein to do whatever they want. It is not about impressing anybody. It's not about, oh my God, this is terrible or embarrassment or anything like that. Just let it go. When any of those voices, oh, this isn't good enough, any of those voices appear, you just send them off to get a pedicure, thank them for their concern. They're just trying to protect you, after all. thank them for their concern, send them off to get a pedicure, and get right back to letting your inner 4-year-old have a grand old time and explore and see, I wonder, what else can I do? I wonder, what else can I do? I wonder, what else might happen? I wonder. That is all you're doing. It's all you're doing. And what I find also really, really useful is to think about all of the modern art that I've seen at modern art museums that I've thought, well, that's quite interesting and maybe rather ugly, but some museum curator paid a lot of money for that. I wouldn't hang it in my living room, but some museum curator thought it was worth several $100,000 or whatever. If that piece is considered valuable and worthy by somebody, why is what I make somehow not valuable? The other thing that I found really quite helpful is to share what I create, which you might find interesting. But when I share the work, the crappy or insignificant work that I create on Instagram or Facebook, social media, not with the intention of getting validation, but rather just, all right, here's something, and then let it go, no expectation whatsoever. I have been fascinated to discover that random strangers have taken the time to lift their thumbs and tap the like button. Now, I'm not sharing, this is important. I am not sharing with the goal of getting external validation. If you do that, that's a bottomless pit that you're never going to fill. But if you share simply because you're sending an offer out into the world, you create your thing, you've done, and then you're just putting it out into the world with no expectation of outcome, what happens is you get some very interesting data. And when I have put my work out there that I think, well, this is a piece of crap, I'm going to go paint over it tomorrow or throw it in the recycle bin, and somebody lifts their thumb and taps the like button, it allows me to see it through neutral glasses. It allows me to take off my gremlin glasses and see my work through their neutral glasses. And if somebody else sees value in my work, which I maybe have thought was a piece of crap, then it allows me to see that maybe there's value there. That I have found really, really helpful. And maybe you will find it helpful as well. So anyway, that is the entire process of doodling. It is the kind of doodling that I do. Purely just letting your inner 4-year-old inhabit the tip of the pen, giving them free rein to do whatever they want, and then continually dismissing the gremlins that show up. You'll have to do it over and over and over again because the Creative Sandbox is a gremlin-free zone, but gremlins don't pay attention to the rules. So they will just continue to show up, and you will have to continue to send them away over and over and over again. That's it. Any
Wow.
questions?
Wow, that is amazing. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. Oh my gosh. I'm going to look in the chat to see if anyone has any questions. If you have any questions, please put it in for Melissa on Doodle Aid and getting started. This was amazing. And look at what you created. This was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. It is just amazing. Look at all the detail. And I just love like how you were just in this flow like state. Is that what it feels like for you when you're doodling?
Yeah, it's interesting. It sort of goes back and forth between at the very beginning, there tends to be a process that I go through where at the start I feel like, oh, this is not going anywhere. This is going to be crap. And then eventually I typically get into a flow state. And often, today is not one of those days, but I often go through sort of an awkward teenage, the piece, quote unquote, goes through a place where I go through an awkward teenager phase. And then sometimes it ends up in a place where I really like it. Today, not so much. I'm not super crazy about this doodle, but sometimes I end up with a doodle that I really, really like. And sometimes I end up with a doodle that I don't like so much. And it doesn't matter because it's not about whether I like it or don't like it. It's about the process of doing it. And in fact, that is guidepost number 2, think process, not product. It's about the process. And when you can tap into the experience of creating, and rather than getting tied into, did I make something amazing? Did I make something worthy? Then you will always want to create. You will always be creating if your goal is to be in the moment of creation and enjoy the process. If you are enjoying the process, then you'll be creating all the time. You'll want to be creating. It's that feeling, if you're going for the feeling rather than going for the product that you're creating, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. And our buddy Jyoti, she says hi. She wants to make sure.
Jyoti!
Yep.
Hi, Jyoti. Good to see you. Or not, I don't see you, but good to hear from you.
Yeah. And also, I might be butchering the name, but Leon says it's very nice, loves it.
Oh, thanks. Hi, Leon.
Yeah, and so I would like my camera's having some issues, but I am still here. You can still hear me, and I would like for us to do if you could just take me through an activity. Someone that is just getting started with doodling. What is something that they can do as a way to just, like you said, everything's an offer. Just start moving the pen around and seeing what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So the very, very first thing, take out your paper. Could be a back of an envelope, or a piece of scrap paper, anything you have nearby, and grab any writing implement, pencil, pen, crayon, whatever you got, and make any mark. Doesn't
Got it.
matter. Just make a mark.
Make a mark. All right, mark made.
Excellent. Now, look at that mark and just respond to it in some way by making another mark that relates to that mark. So it might touch that mark, or it might not touch the mark, but somehow relate to it. One of the things that I really like to do, and this is something that you might try if you want, I really like making I like line quality that is sort of uneven and feels a little bit like wrought iron. So my sort of go-to is to go over the line that I just made and make it heavier and a little bit awkward and uneven. And the reason that I like to do that is I just really like sort of, I don't know, a random looking line quality that looks very like handmade, not made by a computer, and like a little bit like wrought iron. That's just a style that I really enjoy. I don't do it all the time. That's just a go-to thing that I do frequently. So if you're at a loss for, oh my God, what do I do next? That's a thing that you can do. Another thing that I do quite frequently is if I've made some kind of a mark that is not a circle or a square or a closed shape, is I will often add something to the end of my lines. So like a circly shape or a square shape or something like that on either end. So that's always, if I don't know what to do, that's something that I know I can always do, or a
Got
triangle or
it.
something like that.
I love that.
And then
Yeah,
again, I can go over those lines. So if I don't know what to do, I can always make the line that I just made heavier. So that's always a go-to thing. So if you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, then you can always make the line that you just made heavier. And then you don't have to question like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? So now I basically just made 3 marks, but in each case I've made those lines heavier. And I just went from nothing to wow, now I have something really solid on my page, on my 3x5 card. And now, okay, now my next step is to respond to that in some way. So I have 2 choices basically. The next mark that I make can either touch what I just made or not touch what I just made. And I can either basically copy in some way, like I basically can repeat something that I've just made in some way, like a theme, repeat the theme, or or vary from the theme that I just made. So if I want to repeat the theme, I can make essentially another triangle, another whatever this weird shape is, or another line that mimics the line that I just made, or I can vary from that in some way, make something that's different in some way. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. And
So
when you were talking earlier, you were talking about the gremlins start to show up, which is very true. So what is your you said send the gremlin off to get a pedicure? Pedicure?
yeah, so I like to say, "Oh, hi, gremlin. I see you. I hear you. Thank you so much for your concern. You're not needed right now. I got this. I'm sending you off to get a pedicure. You can come back later." Actually, I don't really want them to come back later. I'll just send them off to get a pedicure. So,
Got it.
bye-bye, gremlins. So one of the other things that I do, and this is my style, but you are welcome to borrow it if you want, is when in doubt, I will often like add little like bumps onto my lines.
Oh, like a little flare, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, add a little flair. And I will sometimes make them like in a decreasing size or something like that. Another
Got it.
thing that I will often do is I will add flair in the form of little lines sort of sparking off of the line that I just made, or they can be like little other shapes coming off, squares or other random shapes coming off of the line. That's another thing that I will often do. And again, this is my style. This is, you will find your own way of doing things, but that's something that I like to do. And then uh, you can make like curly cues coming off the line. That's another thing. And again, I like to retrace my line because that's my style is to make this sort of wrought iron looking line quality. So already now I have a doodle that's like that is a doodle that's forming
Wow.
here. Another thing
Yeah.
that I like to do is I'll make just a random sort of a knot like shape. I'll just sort of make a loop that goes around on itself. And then sometimes I'll turn that into like a little animal or something. That can be a fun game. So make a squiggle or a knot or a loop and then see if you can turn that into a bird or something. So I'll add a beak and maybe an eye and then maybe some little feet.
This is also very therapeutic. This is fun.
I know it is. And then maybe I'll add some tail feathers or something.
And
This
I will
this
be
can be
sure
a
to take a
really
picture of mine and I will post it in the comments so everyone can see. But yeah, I just like just supporting that. And your bird, by the way, looks really cool.
oh hey, this can be really fun. And another thing that I'll like to do is fill up an entire page with just making random um, knots or just any kind of a shape. Just make a squiggle shape and then turn it into an animal or a bird.
Got
That can
it.
be really fun.
Yeah, that really does take the pressure off, right? Just like making something and then say, what does this look like? Oh, this could be a bird. Or like you said, how can you make this a bird? That is really
Yeah.
cool.
And like this is turning into some weird kind of monster. I'll give it a tail. And if you really let yourself be like a 4-year-old, then that takes a lot of pressure off because like check out this monster, it doesn't have to be anything or the bird, it doesn't have to be anything remotely realistic. And that's one of the things that I love about these abstract doodles is I'm not trying to make it look like a person or, I'm not trying to make it look like George Washington or something.
Yeah,
It's really, really liberating.
it definitely is. And you brought up a good point about like letting yourself be a 4 year old. My son, who's 3, he has one of those. It's sort of like an etch a sketch, except not really. Like you, it's like a magna pencil, and you sort of draw, and it makes sketches. And he says, "Dada, what do you want me to draw?" And I just like say, "Oh, draw a giraffe." And he like does something. He's like, "Here you go, a giraffe." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
That
so cool."
we all need a 3-year-old around who can model for us because we've forgotten, adults have forgotten how to be like that. And I mean, how liberating is, wouldn't you rather be able to be like that? It's so constraining to be, to adult all the time.
Right? Yeah, yeah. That is the way that I aspire to be. And I want to bring up another point, that you were talking about was um, the seeking the validation. I Brad Montague is someone that I really admire and look up to, and he had said something about I'm probably going to butcher this, but he was basically saying do the work with heart, not for heart. Like, or no, sorry, do it with love, not for love.
Oh yeah. I love that. That's so great.
Yeah, just put your love into it, but it's not for the validation or. And if someone happens to like it, that's great, but that was not your intention.
That that speaks to so many things because if you are doing work because you love to do it, people are more likely to respond to it anyway.
Yeah.
And if they don't respond to it, you're not going to care
Right.
because you're doing it because you love to do it. This is the thing, like it's very interesting, like the work that I create, these kinds of doodles, I don't get a whole lot of, they're not they don't have mass appeal. It's not like I
Yeah.
have it's not like I have like a massive following of people.
Yeah.
It's not like I have a million Instagram followers for my black and white doodles, let's be real. But this is work that I have created because I I developed this practice that was, profoundly healing for me. It was a spiritual practice for me. It was something I did that was useful and healing and helpful and beneficial. And it actually didn't even matter whether or not people responded to it. I mean, it's always wonderful when people do. And of course, I hope that the right people will. And it would be lovely if a million people did, but they don't. And that's not why I do it. Right.
Agreed.
So yeah. And I made a goose or a duck or something.
Yeah. It's so funny because at first I thought that was like a snake with legs, and then like yeah, your little reptile thing as well.
Yeah, I love my little, I don't know what this is, monster dragon thing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, this has been amazing. And from the comments, forgive me, it was Leonie. That is my bad. So I just want to correct that. But Melissa, this has been such a delight. Thank you for teaching us about the art of doodling, and for those of you watching, whether live or the replay, I invite you to just start. Follow the instructions of putting a writing implement to paper, making a mark, and going on a little adventure and seeing where you go. And I think it would be great to just when you're done, whenever that is, how do you feel afterwards? I know for me, this is very like therapeutic. I was like feeling a little bit nervous. One, because I was having some technical issues, and then two, is like, oh, I'm drawing here. And then after, as I was just going and just telling Mr. Fear to go hang out. We got this. Me and creativity, we got this. Yeah, it's been really cool.
Well, and just start is guidepost number 5, by the way.
Guidepost number 5. Yes. And if people, saw this and they're like, "Wow, I would love to get your book," please let us know. How can we support you in that? I'm going to put the link to it in the comments. Would you rather them go through your website or Amazon?
You can get to all of the Amazon links by going to creativesandboxway.com. That'll take you
Great.
to the American Amazon and all the European Amazons. And you can also just find it by searching for the Creative Sandbox Way in the Amazon shop near you.
I love
Sadly,
it.
you can't get it in Australia because of COVID. I'm very
Uh,
bummed about that.
Sad times. Oh yeah, Leonie made one. It said it's very relaxing.
Yay! Fist bump.
Yes, we'll give you like a virtual fist bump. We appreciate that. Yay! Give you some of the little
It is
claps
it
and
is
stuff like
super.
that.
It's a great stress reliever. I highly
Yeah.
recommend it for that.
Yes, and I'm gonna take a picture of mine and I'm gonna post it in the comments so everyone can see.
Yay!
Um,
I want to see.
yes, but it has been like truly awesome to have you on doing this, Melissa. It's been something that I feel like everyone needs, especially all the stuff going on. Just to give yourself just a space to just let things flow.
Yeah, and it's great. You can do it, any moment. You can just pick up a pen or a pencil, some a back of an envelope, any scrap piece of paper or a sketchbook or whatever you have, and you can do a doodle in 2 minutes. It's a fantastic stress reliever. Perfect for perfect for these shelter in place times that we're going through right now. So highly recommend it.
Yes. And Melissa, this is not the only thing that you do. You have
No.
many, many talents. Um, Take a moment and just tell us about your facilitation practice and how you help organizations.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm doing a lot of graphic facilitation and graphic recording remotely for virtual meetings and events. So I take live visual notes. I don't have one that I can pull up and show you offhand because they're all sitting in drawers, but I can use an iPad to take live visual notes during your meeting or event. And so you have fantastic social media shares that people first of all people can watch while I'm visual note taking live. I combine graphics and writing, and it's extremely compelling for people to watch me draw live. So they're less likely to click away. And then they have an artifact that they are really likely to share with their friends on social media. So it creates a lot of great buzz for your event. And I use all sorts of really fun games to facilitate your virtual meetings and events. And I can teach you how to run non boring, really fun Zoom or other online virtual meetings and events during this COVID crazy pandemic. And when we are meeting in person, I offer, I help companies unleash creativity through improv and uh, play-based activities and um, graphic facilitation and things like that as well. So
Love it. Yes, Melissa is amazing at all of those things, and it's just a delight. She is that light that will brighten any sort of environment, virtual or physical.
thanks.
Yes, and so if someone's interested in hitting you up about your sort of graphic facilitation, where can they find you?
I have a couple different websites. My consultancy website is Creative Sandbox Solutions, Creative Sandbox dot solutions. You can also get there at creativesandboxsolutions.com. And you can also find me at melissadinwiddie.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Melissa Dinwiddie.
Awesome.
And and then I'm on Instagram at a_creative_life.
Yay! And oh, for all the people who saw me and Jeff Harry's how to deal with a-holes at work using play, that presentation,
Oh, right.
Melissa is the one who did all of the graphics, which was amazing.
Thank you. That was really
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, we sat down. I think it was like maybe a 2 hour session, and we went through the whole presentation. And Melissa took a moment, or not a moment, but while we were doing it, she was doodling and drawing, and she was creating all these graphics. And then we had a video that we can use as an explainer. We had all the graphics for our presentation, and that is the thing that everyone compliments the most. Is that?
That's so cool. Yeah, I do those explainer videos too. That's right.
Yes. So, Melissa, thank you so much for joining me on this LinkedIn Live, and for everyone watching. Thank you for bearing with me with the technical difficulties, but this was such a treat. And yeah, I hope you all go out and doodle, and if you do, please tag Melissa so she can see it. You can tag me, and we're excited to see how you take this.
Thank you so much, Gary. This is great fun.
Yes. All right. Bye, everyone.